Hi and welcome to 2023's January New Year objective setting. We're nearly at the end of January and I've trying to decide exactly what I want to do with this channel. I didn't put out that much last year because in the summer I had some quite concerning health issues and I just couldn't find the time or the energy to devote to produce the content I really wanted to. And now we're a few weeks into 2023, I've got to ask, what is it that I specifically want to bring and share with the world? So the truth is 2023 is going to be primarily, but not exclusively, the year of the JRPG. There's just too much going on for me to ignore something which has been one of my passions in video games ever since the early 2000s. We have on consoles the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters finally coming out, which means for the first time you can pretty much play almost every single Final Fantasy mainline game on one system. Or rather two. I'm probably going to pick them up for the Switch, and then the more modern games, Final Fantasy 16 is coming out exclusively for the PS5. Don't run away if you don't love and don't care about Final Fantasy. I am going to talk about other franchises, but this is it's not the original JRPG franchise. It's not, arguably that's Dragon Quest, or there's even Phantasy Star Online there's some interesting stuff going on there about what came first. But Final Fantasy was the tentpole, particularly after Final Fantasy VII, and then on the PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy X. This really was the international flag in the stand. This is the series to turn to see where the direction of travel is going. And I would say it's lost that. It's not quite that anymore. It's not the premier JRPG series. If you ask me what currently was, I'd say it's Persona 5 or Xenoblade Chronicles, the series that people are turning back to. So what's the point of Final Fantasy? What role does it play? Should we really be holding it in such, revering it so much now? I want to go back and I want to revisit every single mainline Final Fantasy franchise game, maybe not 11, because that's just, these MMOs are quite difficult to get hold of, but 1 to 15, 16's coming out this year, all available on console. I'm in. I'm going to check them out, and I'm going to share my thoughts revisiting these from, the late 1980s to the early 2010s classics. Also remastered and on consoles, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 3 Portable, and Persona 5 Royal have come to the modern consoles. I played Persona 5 for the first time 2 years ago, and I understand why so many people are hyped for that, and I'm definitely going to be playing Persona 4 Golden shortly. But in addition to that, I've finally gone and confronted one of the big JRPG series that I'd been missing out on all this time, Tales of Arise. It's apparently very different from a lot of the older Tales of games. I've just finished it, and I'm going to record and report that to this channel in a separate video. I really liked it. I can see why some other channels, particularly Hallowed Be Thy Game, were just raving about this a few years ago when it came out, and yeah, I can see the overlap between that and Final Fantasy VII Remastered, but it's doing its own thing in a really competent and well-told style. So there's going to be a lot of RPG gaming this year, as I think that's the direction of what I'm going to be focusing on for 2023. Not ruling out and not saying we'll be exclusive to that, but if you want a good video game content with storylines and action and exploration, I think this is what I've got currently in the mood for a lot of. I'm hyped for these revisits. I mean, personally, I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021, the biggest disappointment in gaming announcements that summer was when Square Enix announced that the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters were coming out, and my heart was just going, yes, I've been calling for this. And then it said only on Steam and mobile, and my heart just dropped. I can now understand the gaming model, and it was obvious back then. They make it for mobile because they know they'll get a guaranteed revenue income. They also know they can cut corners. For the PC and gaming market, it's pretty standard. You release something in a beta form and you can meddle with it, tweak it, make it right. They've already promised that they're going to improve the font, which is one of the things a lot of people hated about these remasters. I'm yet to see if how good this replacement will be. Hopefully, what comes out on consoles should be fairly robust. And for a 30-year-old game, you'd expect it to be. But we'll see. So, lots to look forward to. I've already completed Tales of Arise. Video for that is going to come out pretty promptly. If you've got any suggestions for a great classic JRPG I should add to the watch list, on top of Final Fantasy, Persona, and the Tales of series, maybe the Chrono games? I had a conversation again with another YouTuber recently where I acknowledged I never actually ever finished Chrono Trigger. which if you speak to certain people is a travesty in the JRPG community. In the late 90s, Chrono Trigger was considered one of the greatest games of all time, until arguably Final Fantasy VII came along and knocked it off its perch. I played 90% of Chrono Trigger, I never finished it, and there was a mini game in the DS version 3/4 of the way through that just annoyed me, and I put the game down. And the problem with JRPGs is you put them down, you come back after some time's passed, and you've forgotten the systems, you've forgotten the style, you have to relearn it. So I need to restart that game from scratch at some point. We'll see where this year takes us, but if you've got any suggestions, please drop them in the comments to know. I'm open for suggestions.